Hello, and welcome to a Rebel High Command Cast, an Imperial Assault podcast for 2023 and beyond. This podcast is hosted by the IACommand YouTube channel and sponsored by listeners like you through Patreon. If you want to support new IA content in 2023, head over to patreon.com/IACommand and become a patron today. This is episode number 12. I am your host, TV Boy, aka Noah, and as you can tell, I am still a little bit sick today. But I'm joined, thankfully, by my co-host, the Second Flock, aka Wesley. Hey, Wesley, how you doing?
Hey, voice doing a lot better. Hope yours gets there as well.
Yeah, good. We had to take a week off. I was sick. I don't know about you, but just coughing, and every time I get sick, I always lose my voice if I have a cough.
Hmm, that's not fortunate. Yeah,
So pretty
normally
rough.
normally it's fine for me, but the last time I got sick, I had a cough for a month. No, not too much voice loss though. So sorry to
Yeah,
hear that.
yeah. But we're gonna soldier on because we've got a bit of a time-sensitive topic we wanted to talk about today, which is the recently announced Community Makes the Card initiative for Season 8 of IACP. And that's coming up, and the first vote is actually coming up this weekend, so I'm hoping to get this out by Monday, the 23rd.
Yeah, hopefully everyone has a chance to see this and has a few more days to put in any submissions once they hear about this. Because I know this has been up for a little bit to get the starting week people more time to come up with ideas.
Yeah, we announced it a couple weeks ago. I had planned
Yeah.
on talking about it last week when we record. For those that are curious, we usually we record on the weekend, and then I take time to edit it and get it out by Wednesday. Um, but like I said, I was sick and just wasn't going to work out trying to record like that. So we're getting it done today, and we're going to get it out quickly, or
Yep.
I
We've
will.
got this one on Rush.
Okay, so just to speed things up, normally I record this separately, but since this is going to be going up live in just a couple days from now, we'll do the community updates here with Wesley in the studio. So, community updates for this week in January 23rd. The first one is, and let me, this is fun doing this live. IACP will be at Adepticon for those that have not heard. We got everything approved and set up. So there's an event. It is being hosted at Adepticon on March 25th. You can go to adepticon.org and sign up now. Registration is open, and there are still seats left in the event. So definitely check that out if you are going to be interested in traveling over to Illinois. We're going to be using the community championship kits for that. Joey's going to be TO, thankfully. A big thank you to Joey Galazewski, who's very close to there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun last time. You can see the people playing in last year's Adepticon IACP tournament, and I know people will have a good time this time as well. So definitely register for that now. The next bit of news I wanted to point out there is that we are taking orders for the Community Championship Kit 2023 tournament kits. So how this works is you email me or email us at iacontinuityproject.com, which is in the show notes or in the video description, and we've got this sweet little kit here set up for people. I put an order in to the printer. The uh, printer, I quote you the money, and then that pays the printer, and that's it. There's no profit going to ICP. It's all just goes to the costs of production and shipping, and we ship it out to you. It gets shipped directly to you. It doesn't come to me first, so it's very streamlined, and it's a great way to do it like a tournament or a league at your local store, or maybe at a convention or something if you want to do that.
And you said these are going to be part of the price pools for Adepticon?
Yes, so Adepticon's going to have this as well as some additional prizes that are being donated to it.
Yeah,
So
both of those sound very exciting.
yeah, so there's going to be some dice, regular dice, but like dial counters, deployment sheets, and some refurbished figure packs being given away at Adepticon as well.
Nice.
All right, this piece of news is personal actually to me. My custom campaign needs playtesters. If you guys haven't heard, I have a custom campaign that I've been working on for a while now that uses Imperial heroes instead of Rebel heroes. And I have just done a big update in December. I added, I think, 4 new missions, 2 new heroes, 3 new deployment cards, and excuse me, 3 new Rebel class decks, and a new rule set, so it ties it all together. So if you're interested in a custom campaign, also there's it's all set to print, and there's also a tabletop simulator saved object file in there as well that you can download and open in tabletop simulator, and it gives you all the cards you need to play, along with if you use like a whatever your tabletop simulator campaign module of choice is. As long as you can build with custom tiles, you can play test in tabletop simulator. So definitely check that out. I'll post a link in the description. And
And
then,
if you're looking for other players to help you playtest it, go ahead and post anywhere really. But the IACP Discord also has a channel for that. I'm always looking to recruit people for campaigns too. So that's where I am if you want to take a look into this.
yep. And you could even playtest it solo. To be honest, I want any and all playtesting because it takes a long time for me to playtest these missions on my own. So anyway, moving on.
Not true. I
Huh?
just haven't done the me versus me version of IACP
Yep.
that I know other people have done. Playtested alone.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on here to the ICP website has actually got an update. I've recently gotten admin access, and so the site was a little bit outdated. You guys may have noticed. So went ahead and made some changes, spruced it up a little bit, including an embedded video player on the site, and also the articles now go out further to the last 20 articles, so you can go back and read them a lot easier. Also, this podcast is now pinned to the website since we do talk about IACP. And there's also important dates and a permanent link to the IACP Discord and to upload your vassal logs because I know that can be sometimes hard to find. So that will take you to a Dropbox link where you can upload your vassal logs for your IACP games, and that helps us track performance data of the cards, informs us that way. So yeah, definitely go check that out.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think I saw you also put some of your gameplay videos up there too.
yeah, so
Just another way to find that.
there's an embedded player that shows a playlist of all ICP gameplay videos showing the newest one. So if you whatever the newest gameplay video is, it will pop up in there, and that includes other people's videos too. Because I don't just add mine to the playlist, but so like Wesley, if you posted a ICP gameplay video, I add it to that playlist. It'll show up on the ICP homepage for as long as it's the newest one.
Nice.
And of course, it'll be in that playlist too. You can just click on the playlist button. It'll show you all those videos when you go to the homepage. Okay, moving on. We got quite a bit of news.
Yeah,
um,
busy January.
the IACP competitive league that was going on during the holidays. To be honest, we dropped the ball a little bit on that one. It wasn't being monitored and updated the way it should have been with the new format of letting people schedule their games whenever they want instead of having assigned games each week. That's going to be getting rebooted. So in the next week or so, we're going to be taking signups. So definitely keep your eyes open if you missed the one that happened during the holidays and want to play in a league. We're going to be opening up signups for that one, and I know Derek's really pumped to be really on top of this one. He's going to make sure this one works because he's really interested in this new format working. And then finally, we have the Create a Card project, which is we're going to roll into that as our main topic, but I just want to mention it here. If you haven't looked at it, go to the ICP website, check it out. We want the community to help us design the next card for season 8, and it's a really great way to get involved. It'll be a really fun project, I think, for people, and this is the time to get involved. Of course, you can jump in when it's still halfway through, but I think people really want to be involved in the starting process of that. Okay, that's our community updates. Going back to my show notes here. So normally we do a comms chatter section, but I'm going to skip that for this episode because I know my voice is going to give out at any moment. And we didn't have that much comments to go, like, questions to really go over. But if you do want to have your comment or question featured on the show, just leave a comment down below on the video, or send an email to iacommand01@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it out on the next episode. So next up, our rules question, and actually, Wesley, I might let you take this one because this was your rules question, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was. And this actually came up during a match I was doing with Harvey in his infamous double Rancors. I built a spy list and was playing a card I don't often see, but it's Rest in Peace. And, this is the card that allows you to prevent either player from looking at cards in the discard pile or really interacting with them in any meaningful way. But the question was, if you have Rest in Peace and your opponent, let's say your opponent has initiative and they have Dr. Aphra and they use Excavate to declare a card like Ferocity. Ferocity lets you attack at the end of the round with a creature. Rest in Peace is worded so that its persistent effect, it goes into play at the start of a round, but you get rid of it at the end of the round. You discard this card to draw one command card. So the question was, if your opponent excavates an end of round card like Ferocity, uh, maybe I think Juddland Terror, same timing, but different cards like that, does Rest in Peace stay in play long enough to protect against it? Because in IACP, we have some cards that go away at the start of the end of the round phase, some cards that go away at the end of round when it is your turn to do end of round effects, and then some effects that persist until the actual end of round, basically when initiative passes. So the answer here is that the way Rest in Peace is worded is at the end of the round, discard this card and draw one command card. So because of that wording, it goes away during your end of round effects step. So in this case, my opponent had played or used Excavate and declared Ferocity. And they were able to do that before I can play Rest in Peace because they have initiative. They can do start of rounds first. Now, me playing Rest in Peace, they now cannot let Dr. Aphra's Excavate ability actually play the card from the discard pile. So Ferocity can't be played as long as Rest in Peace is in play. When it gets to the start of the end of the round phase, uh, it's fine. Rest in Peace does not go away because of the way that it's worded. When it would then be my opponent's turn to do end of round effects, Rest in Peace should still be in play because it has not been my end of round effects yet. So they would miss basically the timing on Ferocity, and then it would go to my end of round effects. I would discard Rest in Peace and draw the card, but they would have already missed their chance to play Ferocity. And yeah, the core of this question is until end of round versus at end of round versus during this round. So if you have a card that is worded during this round, applying X, Y, and Z effect, that's going to last until initiative passes at the end of the round. If you have until the end of the round worded on some cards, that effect goes away at the start of the end of the round step, and that's before each player is able to do end of round effects. Correct me if I'm wrong, Noah, but I think that would be until the end of round basically goes away at the start of the status phase, or
Go.
would it be just before the end of round effects step?
Yeah, it's the start of the. It would be the end of round step. It would go away right before the end of round step happens,
Mm-hmm.
which is
And then
after
at
mission
yeah,
effects. So yeah,
it's after mission effects.
yes, it's during the end of round effects step. So the status phase is broken up into You ready deployment cards. You resolve mission effects. End of round. Then you resolve player abilities. End of round player abilities. Um, yeah, that's a good question about
Right, but
if it comes before mission effects
yeah,
or not.
something that says until the end of the round, I would imagine goes away the second we enter the end of round step. And I'm drawing a blank for cards that even are worded like that at the moment.
There's only a few. There's like efficient travel is
Oh,
one.
uh, fuel upgrade. Yeah, fuel upgrade is one. So it's used at the start of a round until the end of the round. Each of your vehicles gains +1 speed and applies +1 evade to its defense results. So looking at that, are we saying that it ends that it would be discarded after mission effects, but before the player effects at the end of the round steps? End of round effects step?
Yeah, I'm checking.
Because I would imagine the meaningful difference here is when it says until the end of round, the second we hit the start of the end of the round, it just goes away because it kind of ignores player priority as well. Whereas rest in peace, the way it's worded, lasts until your end of round effects, whether you be first or second.
Yeah, so it looks like it would be before. It would end before the mission effects,
Okay.
according to what
So
Podzy is
yeah,
saying
we
in
have
this thread.
cool. So we have until end of round cards like fuel upgrade or survival instincts that end before end of round mission effects. Cards that do something at the end of the round, such as rest in peace, where they get discarded at the end of the round, so that lasts until your player's end of round effects. And maybe you can confirm, can they do this in any order if they have several end of round effects? Like
Yes,
if you have a Han attack and rest in peace, can you shoot with Han before you discard rest in peace?
yes. So you can order the effects however you like, but it goes player with initiative does their effects first,
Yep.
and then the player without initiative does their effects. But the players who have simultaneous effects who control them can order them however they want.
Yep. Okay. And then lastly, you have cards that say during this round. And that's the most powerful because that will only go away after initiative passes. And this gets into a lot of the interactions between cards that can do end of round effects. So again, things like Han Solo getting his end of round attack, or just things like the ferocity card, things you want to protect against when you interact with you. You should know the difference between the different end of round timings that there are. And just to make it more complicated, um, in my example, my opponent goes first. They excavate ferocity, so they're telegraphing they're going to try and play that at the end of the round. I play rest in peace. However, should I also play take initiative? I now get initiative for the rest of the round. And when it would have come to the end of the round effects, rest in peace would go during my end of round effects, which means it would be discarded on my initiative before my opponent's end of round effects. And I think that we just talked about how that's the one scenario where rest in peace wouldn't protect against something like an end of round card being played from the discard. Just if you play rest in peace and also play take initiative.
Right. Yeah, so to clarify, Rest in Peace is played start of round, and it prevents players not only from playing cards from the discard pile, but also from choosing cards in the discard pile. So, if the Rest in Peace player had initiative, then they would prevent Afra's excavation ability from being used at all. If the Afra player had initiative, then when it got to the end of the round, when it was time for Afra to use the end of round card she had excavated. Rest in Peace is still in play and it will prevent it. So it has it covered in almost all scenarios except for the one you said where the Afra player is able to use excavation with initiative before Rest in Peace can be played. But then the initiative changes due to take initiative from the other player, and then the other player's Rest in Peace gets discarded first. So in which case they should not have played Rest in Peace because they should have known that with them having initiative, their Rest in Peace would go away. They should have saved it for the next round.
Yeah, I believe the comment in one of these threads was just the picture of the guy. Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's complex though. It's complex. It's probably its own podcast episode topic, to be honest. But trying to
yeah,
cover all the different things. But I just thought that was the most interesting rules question this week.
yeah, definitely. It's a good learning tool too.
Okay, should we
I
jump
think that's a
into
good
our
distinguishing.
main top? Or we haven't talked about games we played.
Yeah. Well, I'll continue because the rules question sprouted from the latest game I played, and I think I already talked about this on the last podcast. I was going up against again Herbie's double Rancors, his infamous list. And I think very briefly, I'll just recap. I did manage to take out both of the Rancors, which I felt good about, but his support team were able to secure the objective points better than my B team was. I had 1.5 figures remaining at the end of the game, and he was just able to clean up with, Afra, Jawa, and I think Bib Fortuna were able to do more than my one ISB unit. But interesting with the interaction we just talked about, there was a round where I had Rest in Peace, and I also had Take Initiative. And I this is where the rules question came up because I was very concerned that I was about to play myself. But what I wound up doing is throwing the Rest in Peace. My opponent had initiative. They used Afra to excavate Ferocity. I was worried about that. So I play the Rest in Peace. They think about it and they play Negation. They want to get Ferocity off because each Rancor attack is huge. And then I play Take Initiative knowing that they've used their negation on something else. And he kind of called me out and said that was good there. So I didn't stop the end of round attack, but I did get initiative that round, which I kind of needed to help deal with the Rancor. And that's been it for me. How's it going, games on your side?
Yeah, so I haven't really played much skirmish, but I did recently start trying out the. I finally started to try the Imperial Commander 2 app, um, which is one of the fan-made apps that lets you play any of the campaigns as a app campaign with the same rule sets and kind of AI directive as the Legends of the Alliance official campaign, but instead of like digital missions, you get access to all the campaign missions, which is really sweet. Um, and that's been really fun, actually, surprisingly. I've been playtesting missions for my custom campaign, and I had gotten kind of into a block where I was just getting tired and frustrated. Not frustrated, just like this is hard. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll try this out and maybe I'll get some inspiration from playing these other missions. So that's been really interesting, and I'm hoping to make a video for that when my voice is feeling better and kind of show people how it works because it's not the most intuitive, to be honest. I think they could make some improvements in their UI for sure, but it is quite good when it's working on all cylinders. It's quite impressive.
Mm-hmm. I'll uh, I'll add in that they are receptive to feedback too. I know one time I had an issue where I was like, "Hey, the threat count doesn't seem right," and I went and posted on Reddit um, under the last time they'd updated. It was like a month-old post. I said, "Hey, just so you know, I was doing this mission and this weird thing happened." And within a day, they'd actually followed up, like, "Oh, give us all these variables about this situation." And And they're like, okay, we found what the error was. It's with this one mission, and we will fix that in the next update. So, very receptive to feedback.
Yeah, and I learned what I think you had learned before, which is that the adaptive difficulty setting is very hard, like
Yeah. I
ridiculously
think it
hard.
might be doable in like later threat levels. But like I said, my experience was it was threat level 3. My I my I took out, I think it was can't remember the name, but the giant Tuscan Raider riding on a Bantha, the Bantha Rider. So I spent the whole round taking out a Bantha Rider and maybe like one other 3-point figure. And the way adaptive difficulty works, it gives the Imperial half of that threat back. So by the end of the round, they got 4.5 of their points from the Bantha I killed back, and 1.5 points back from the other thing. So that's 6 threat, and then they gained end of round threat, and so they had 9 threat, and they just summoned another Bantha Rider, and I was like, this took me the entire round to deal with. I gotta get to the end of the mission. So, yeah, I think it's a little crazy how buff that adaptive difficulty is. Yeah, their wiki documentation has some info about that, and I think it's like there's a modifier, and every time it gets a deployment, it will randomly decide how much it's going to deploy, what kind of deployment it's going to do, and then depending on whether it deploys nothing or a lot of things or a medium amount of things, it's going to go, okay, let's increase or decrease this modifier to make it more or less likely to deploy more next time. And so sometimes it seems really smart, and sometimes it kind of just gives you free rounds. You actually can click the Imperial hand and take a look at how much threat they have. If you just don't want to see their deployments, I like put my hand to the screen and just look at the bottom section to see how much threat they have.
Hey everyone, so I am editing this podcast on Sunday night, and come to find out that at right before this section that you just heard, about the 25-minute mark, my recording just didn't record for some reason. My side didn't record, and I was recording both our voices. Um, probably something to do with how I stopped it, or what, maybe how much memory I had on my computer. But thankfully, Wesley is a professional. Unfortunately, I am not. But also, thankfully, the rest of the episode, the main topic, was mostly Wesley talking, since I was having trouble with my voice anyway. So I am going to be able to salvage this episode thanks to the fact that Wesley recorded his side of the audio on his computer and sent that to me. And we're going to be able to keep this whole episode going. And I'm just going to interject myself post facto when needed, when I need to interject some facts or whatever. There was some more some game discussion after this point that I ended up cutting because it was mostly just Wesley reacting to what I was saying about the app. So we lose that, but you're gonna get the main discussion here. So here we go. All right, so now we're going to go into the main topic, which is the IACP Season 8 Community Makes the Card, not contest, but project or event, and how that's all going to work out. And Wesley's going to open us up and explain it, and then I will explain where I need to fill in the gaps left by my broken recording.
Yeah. So IACP is letting the community work together to create a card. And this is great because it's meant to be, it's not like each person comes up with their idea and says, hey, IACP, put this in the game. It's let's, as a community, each submit a bunch of ideas, or each submit one idea, and we're going to vote on which one's the best. And then each week, different people are going to put input into how the different card is shaped. So, the way you kind of hear when you hear the make your own card contest, this is not the make your own Star Killer contest. I kind of thought it was until I really dug into this article that it links to on the IACP site. So it's not like I'm going to make Starkiller and say, yeah, put this in the game. It's more like, hey, it would be cool if Imperial Assault had a card that let you shoot from behind cover, like as if you were in another square. Or hey, it would be cool if there was some kind of skirmish upgrade that, let you hide your units like they're all using stealth gear. Just different kinds of ideas for skirmish upgrades or command cards. And the idea is that the first week being the biggest, the idea for what forms the foundation of the card. And then we're going to go over what each week means in this breakdown. But the idea is then we'll have a poll each week after some discussion and kind of decide the cost of the card, the ability text, the different kinds of ways that it's going to work, its mechanics. And it's supposed to be a big collaborative effort so that it's not just one person coming up with a card. In your notes here, you have that it was inspired by Magic the Gathering's old community creates the card events that they don't do anymore. And also like Smogon's Create a Pokemon project. So I'm not familiar with either of those, but maybe they use a similar crowdsourcing system to gather ideas. Yeah. I think we should add here that we're also, or you guys are also not looking for new deployment characters of any kind. It's specifically for skirmish upgrades or command cards. You also have a kind of skirmish upgrade that is also a figure. The squad upgrades.
Yeah, so we're not doing figures because there's a lot of extra stuff you have to vote on, like health, speed, all those stats, dice pool. That just would make it really long. And Wesley did mention squad upgrades. We're not going to do those either because again, you have to have speed value, dice pool, health value, all that stuff, etc., which would be too complicated. So yeah, no to figures and squad upgrades for this.
Yeah. And of course, the end goal here is that there will be a new card that gets added to the playtesting season for the next season of IACP. And that card is still subject to change based on community feedback, if it needs a little balancing, a few tweaking of numbers, before it becomes an official card in the game, or in the unofficial game. But, the card should be put into Season 8.0 in the format we make in this community challenge.
So the way this will work is it'll be 9 weeks. Each week there will be a discussion period from Monday to Friday where people can discuss all their designs that they're looking at or what they think is appropriate. And in that period, people will be making their submissions that they want to add to the ballot. Then Friday through Sunday, there will be a vote. It's a ranked choice vote, and every person that has submitted something to the ballot will get their choice voted on by the rest of the community. People are limited to one item per ballot, so one submission per ballot. We don't want, because we know people could have like 40 ideas, and that would not be reasonable. So we want everyone to kind of narrow it down to their favorite idea to submit. So we're going to have that, and the poll is going to be hosted on Board Game Geek as well as the discussion forums, although people are welcome to use whatever communication medium they want, whether that be Discord or Slack or Facebook or whatever they can. And now Wesley is going to explain how ranked choice voting works.
Yeah. So I think we look at everyone's first choice, and if any of the choices have more than 50% of the vote, it wins. If none do, we look at which one had the least votes, and we kick that one out, and we take everyone who voted for that least popular choice and take their second preferred choice and add those to the other ideas. And then we see, does anyone have more than 50%? No, let's kick out the next least popular idea, take their votes and check their second or third choice, and then repeat until we have something that has 50%. Or over 50% of the vote. like you said, it marries everyone's first choice, and then if their first choice isn't going to cut it, we go to their second choice and then their third choice. So the first week, which we're in the middle of now, and this goes up Monday, so you guys should still have a few days hearing this to head over to the forum, check out the IACP article, and maybe submit your own designs. So we're looking for overall concepts or design goals, and as TV Boy mentioned a bit earlier, it can be top down or it can be bottom up design. My personal idea is something I've heard a lot of people say in the Discord. They wanted a card that represents like the air battles that go on in Star Wars. So I was like, okay, well, often I've been watching the Clone Wars, and they basically always say they need air support or an airstrike to win the ground battle, and it shows up at the last possible minute. So how do we design a card based on that? So that was my idea. I've seen other people post other things, but the idea is let's either add something new to the game that isn't there, or take a thematic idea and put it in the game. I mean, you can have all kinds of crazy ideas, but it's important to remember that we're trying to stick to things that would fit in either a skirmish card or a skirmish upgrade. Command card or a skirmish upgrade. And for right now, we're just looking at overall design goals. So, when I was coming up with my idea, I actually went to the IACP Discord and discussed it with people and came up with different iterations of the card. And then I said, okay, I have an idea for a card. I've got it like a sample text out. I'm going to throw that out and just kind of post what my idea is. And because I know it's going to change 1,000 ways from here. I don't have a full card. Here's a concept. Let's go with that and move from there. And this is this is the point where everyone has the most choice in using their creative outlet to come up with whatever ideas they want. So I encourage everyone who's interested to send their idea there. And hopefully, you get something submitted and we can let the best design win. Once we do that, the voting will be January 27th through the 29th, and then we'll go on to the next week, and we'll be looking at skirmish, upgrade, or command card. So we go to week 2, and this is where it's a yes or no choice, kind of, one or the other. We're going to decide whether the card is either a skirmish upgrade or a command card. And I think a lot of ideas here might have one in mind over the other. I can tell you my idea that I submitted is more meant to be a skirmish upgrade. But the community is going to vote, and if they somehow make my airstrike, skirmish upgrade idea into they decide they want it to be a command card, then that's what it's going to be. So I think, the discussion thread for this one will basically be people talking about which one it should be, what works best for the game, what the kind of card idea it is. And then we'll vote at the end of that week to decide its fate. Week 3 through 4, we're going to go through ability text, and then there's going to be voting on February 17th through the 19th. So it looks like this one is a little longer. I think that's because this is going to be the meat and potatoes of the mechanics, and I think this is where Noah's warning from a minute ago comes in. So, if an idea that's, hey, let's take all the Mandalorian cards and, put them together in like a Spectre Cell kind of card, if that's the idea, it's going to be 2 weeks of people talking about, which way is this card going to work? What's the general ability text going to be? If I come in and try to throw in my airstrike card text on this Mandalorian card and say, yeah, we're going to do this, it's going to be rejected. We've already decided we're doing something for the Mandalorians now. Anyways, it'll be about a week and a half, it looks like, of discussion on how the card is going to work. So this is the mechanical meat and potatoes set of weeks, and that's why it's going to be 2 weeks long. And once we have submissions for the different ways the card can be generally worded, that will go on voting, and we'll move on to the next stage. So week 5 is cost and uniqueness. So this looks like it's going to be 2 things. The first will be cost, whether this is a skirmish upgrade or command card. Does it cost 1 deployment point, 2 deployment points, or 0, or 3 or more? Or does it cost 1 command point, 2 command points? Either way, it's going to have some kind of cost, whether it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or whatever. And I think based on the general ability text, The cost is going to be decided from there to help get a sense of the balance of this thing. And at the same time, it looks like we're also going to be voting for uniqueness. And for skirmish upgrades, that is going to look like it's either a unique card, so it's going to have the dot by its name, or it's an elite card, which means it'll be the red text. IACP basically, generally doesn't do normal deployments where you can bring 4 copies of a thing into the game. So we'll probably only be looking at either elite or unique. So 1 copy or 2 copies you can bring in your list of whatever this card is. And we'll be voting on those 2 things on the 24th through the 26th of February. Next week is Oh, go ahead. Oh, that is interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've just, I think all of the current IACP cards that have the gray border that are not elite are also unique at this time. So that's also a cool idea. The thought that this could be, I would think, IACP's first unique, or IACP's first 4X card that you can bring 4 of. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, also uniqueness for command cards. Most command cards, you just think they're one-ofs, but they actually have these little rectangles at the bottom, and if the card has more than 1 rectangle on it, you can bring more than 1. So cards like Parting Blow you can bring 2 of, or Escalating Hostility you could bring 3 of. So again, 90% of the command cards in the game are 1 inserts, and I don't think IACP has ever made a card that you can bring 2 of. But hey, this is another chance for that too, if it's a command card. Week 6, we'll move on to faction, so we'll decide we'll talk about which faction kind of needs this ability from a gameplay standpoint, maybe which factions might be too strong to have it. We'll also discuss thematically what kind of faction should get it. If it's a Mandalorian-centric card, is it going to be for the Scum faction? Is it going to be for the Rebel faction? Is it going to be factionless, so you can have any combination of Mandalorians on the team? Or do we want to keep it Scum, and then we just expect you to temporary alliance in the one Mandalorian in the Rebel faction, I believe, whose name escapes me at the moment, but... if it's the airstrike card, that's my idea. Do we want this to be something only the Imperials have the power to summon such powerful airstrikes, or is it like the Rebels with their Y bombers, bombing the field to secure the victory at the last possible minute? Or do we? I don't know that we've ever made a card that works on all but one faction, but I don't know if that would be possible. But I do just imagine Scum being the one faction that really wouldn't have access to an airstrike in a coordinated effort. Regardless, that the faction vote is going to be March 3rd through the 5th. Week 7, we're going to move on to the card's name, so we're getting more into the flavor of the card at this point. So the voting for that is going to be March 10th through 12th, and, that's where we stop calling it the Mandalorian card, and we start calling it something, like Mudhorn Crest or something, or whatever the idea will be. Beskar Armor Group, Beskar Armor Squad. And then the voting for that will be March 10th through 12th. Week 8, we're going to go through the card art. I actually don't know how we're going to do card art. Don't know how the legalities of using art goes with that, but I guess we'll have people... I don't know. Are we going to have people draw things, or are we going to just source ideas from, fan art or official art in different parts of the Star Wars universe?
So the way that the art vote will work in this process is IACP operates under the philosophy of fair use doctrine. We're a operation that does not take any payment for the ideas and the designs that we produce. So we try to give credit where we can, but we understand also a lot of this work is derivative. It's a lot of fan work. So we try to give payment, but we do use a lot of artwork, and we also try to get permission whenever we can. But sometimes we do end up using artwork sourced from the internet, and that's what we'll expect people to do: is either source some artwork that they like from the internet and post that as their submission, giving the artist credit and giving us a link to the original source so we can provide that credit as well. Or people can make their own unique original artworks if they want to and if they have that ability to do so. And I think that would be a lot of fun as well. But people don't have to do that. They can just submit art that they have found on the internet that they think is appropriate. As long as they give us the original source that they found, or we can find it, we can give the artist credit. That is preferable.
Okay. Well, one way or another, we're going to be looking at card art. Uh, and we're going to be making a vote on that March 17th through 19th. And one way or another, we're going to get a piece of art to stick on this card that now has a name, an ability text, and costs, and is mostly balanced. Week 9, the last week for design, is revisions, and I think this is the part where we'll be looking at things like what's the cost, what's the ability text, does anything need to be rebalanced here before we submit it to the actual season? So the final card will be, week 9 is revisions. We're going to have our final votes on March 24th through the 26th. All right, I'm going to assume a jump cut here and that Noah can rely on the power of this audio file to help with anything that got missed. So week 9, revisions. We're going to be looking at anything final that needed to be changed on the card. Voting for that is going to be March 24th through the 26th. And at this point, all the card idea has come together. We've got the design, we've got the decision on skirmish upgrade or command card, the ability text, the cost uniqueness, the faction, the card name, the card art. And I think at this point, this is where we would change anything with the cost, or more specifically wording with the ability text, or perhaps numbers within the ability text to meet with the cost and uniqueness of the card. Just any kind of balance changes or anything else that needs to change. Maybe something crazy happens with the art, because that's the most archaic part to me right now. That's how that's going to work. But after all of that, the final card will be play tested publicly in Season 8, along with the rest of the cards for the season, starting April 24th. After that, the steering committee for IACP does reserve the right to adjust the card as needed if there are any play patterns or balance issues with the card, but they'll do their best to try to stay faithful to the original design as much as possible. At that point, we will have the final card to be included in the Season 8 playtest, along with all the rest of the Season 8 cards coming out April 24th. And I think you've got a good chance right now. We currently only have 2 official submissions and a couple more pending. So if you've got a good idea, this is your shot to get something in the game. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this week. Yeah.
And a huge hats off to Wesley for recording on his end locally and allowing this podcast episode to be saved, thankfully.
All right, everyone, stay frosty.